Well, good evening. I'd like to call our special council meeting to order here for May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. City Clerk,
Why
roll
did you
call,
look at me?
please.
I'm just saying.
Because,
Just teasing.
jeez. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Ahia.
Here.
Councilmember Bain.
Here.
Councilmember Howard.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
Councilmember Siebert.
Here.
Vice Mayor Faust. Here. Mayor Chi.
Present. Councilmember Bain, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and would you all rise, please?
Please join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Bain, thank you very much for leading us in the pledge. This is a special meeting for the City Council. One of my initiatives, along with my council colleagues, is to make it easier for our community to come and share their thoughts and concerns, and hopefully good things too about what's going on in Redwood City. This year we have 2 community town hall style meetings. This is the first one here in Redwood Shores. Our second one is scheduled for, hopefully I get this right, October 30th at North Fair Oaks, and then we'll do 2 more next year, and we're going to learn from it. It's not easy bringing a meeting out to the community. It is not being broadcast live, but as you can see, there are cameras around. Our meeting will be filmed and it will be posted and archived on our website within hopefully 24 hours, hopefully by the end of tomorrow. Along with the council, we have our city staff, our direct reports, Dr. Bob Bell, our city manager, Ms. Pamela Thompson, our city attorney, Ms. Sylvia Vonderlin, our city clerk, as well as we have a number of department heads in the audience listening to the community's concerns. As a town hall style meeting, there's no formal agenda. I do ask that you fill out a speaker card and share that with our city clerk. She'll give you about 3 minutes plus or minus. She has a little pyramid here with the green, yellow, and red. Try to please be observant to it. We'll have a little license with it. But because there's no formal agenda, we don't know what you're going to share with us. And we cannot take action as a council this evening, but we may ask clarifying questions, we may try to learn, we may ask our city staff to follow up. But tonight, it's just more about listening and for you to share with us what's on your mind about the community, where we're going, and anything like that. And so with that, any other questions from my council colleagues? Dr. Bell, did I miss anything? All right, we'll get started. So I have a speaker card from Matthew, my apology, Rising? Rising? Thank you.
I have a few copies of permission to read text here, because I'm in the middle of a board meeting at HOA right now as we speak.
Is it convenient for you right down the hall?
Away from here. My name is Matthew Rising, and I've lived across the street at Pelican Cove. I'm on the board of directors there, and I've lived in Redwood Shores for about 17 years. And I'm here to address the subject of the I want to thank, first of all, the council and the mayor for coming out here tonight to the shores. A lot easier than going downtown. But I want to address the municipal code, section 329.38, which refers to the sidewalk maintenance in the public right-of-way, which I believe either there was a change or language change or is presently now being enacted, where the responsibility of sidewalk repairs is going to the property owners whose property abuts or affronts the public right-of-way. This is the first we heard of it actually at Pelican Cove was because the city of Redwood City lobbed onto our lap a lawsuit that somebody had presented to the city for a trip and fall right on the corner on the sidewalk over here in front of our property. Apparently this accident took place sometime in August, although we only heard about this in February. So we knew nothing of it until the claims person from the city's insurance company sent it to our property manager. With this, they said it was our responsibility. Well, for being on the board for 10 years, I've never had the city approach us and let us know that the sidewalk for the public right-of-way was our responsibility, nor the path, which is on the west side of the property, which isn't actually a sidewalk. So this is the first we had heard about it. We've always maintained the sidewalks within our property, and we have our own streets, so technically we don't even use that sidewalk for entrance to our homes. What we'd like to know, the first question is when did this change take place? Was the public notice given to encourage public comment before the city council voted on this or started to enact this policy? We don't remember ever getting any messages from the city regarding this or anything in the mail explaining that the passing of the responsibility and the liability was going to be on all homeowners. So we know this affects everybody that owns property in Redwood City, but out here in the shores, it's a little bit different because this is more of a planned community, and the sidewalks here that people are using, it's not for the mailman and the kids going to school or getting out of your car going to your front door. These sidewalks are used by hundreds of people every day that are jogging, bicycling, and so forth. There's multiple pavement styles, types, asphalt, cement, packed dirt. And in fact, when you come off the bridge here on the one side, there's cement on the bridge and the rest of it's just dirt. So there's a lot of opportunities for accidents. And the HOAs, the city says they don't have money to do the repairs. Well, the HOAs don't have any money to do them either. The revenue the city has, and they've been maintaining these for years. So this is the confusion. City has always maintained the sidewalks since I've lived here. In fact, when we had the trip and fall, the interesting thing is that right after the fall, the city did a patchwork job on the sidewalk. Now, we know it's because of tree roots, but when you folks had the candidate forum out here, nobody has ever mentioned the subject of tree roots on sidewalks that was going to have this effect on everybody that owns property. It's a great expense. So what I'm here basically tonight is to let everybody know that's in the audience, if you weren't aware of it already, that there is a problem here because now the city is saying you're responsible. If it's your trees in your backyard and your fence is going up against Redwood Shores Parkway and it's a dirt path there, is it going to be your roots when somebody trips on those and are you going to be sued? So a lot of these questions I think need to be clarified. Who the responsibility is, what is the standard for repair? If the HOAs or the homeowners are responsible for repairing, are they going to do a cheap fix, patch job? It's not going to be consistent. The standards of repair are going to be different in every neighborhood. The city needs to address these concerns. There's other items here that on this walkway out here, there's Redwood City Public Works Department A-frame sign that are on top of uprooted sidewalks. So that would appear with the repairs that were made in front of our property and with the public works signs that are displayed over other hazards that the city is taking responsibility. So you can see the confusion here.
Mr. Rosen, can you wrap up?
Yeah.
Because we're past our 3 minutes.
Okay,
so.
well, thank you for, but my point is that the city needs to readdress this issue, I think, especially here in Redwood Shores, perhaps take it up with RSOA and find some kind of a solution that doesn't put the responsibility solely on the property owners.
Thank you.
Thank you for
I'm
listening.
going to ask Dr. Bell to answer some of your questions, and what we can't answer tonight, we'll follow up.
Yeah, and that's why I wrote the printed copy. I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Thank you. So first to clarify, we are in conversations with the Redwood Shores Homeowners Association about the incident here and then the requirements overall. So I think the first thing I'd want to clarify is when the ordinance was modified in, I believe it was January of 2013, it was language that was changed to clarify the responsibility of the abutting homeowners when it comes to sidewalk repairs. But it is not a new requirement. It is something that has been about for many years. And so again, it wasn't a new requirement of the homeowner. It was just something that we clarified in the ordinance. So I did want to clarify that. In terms of the specific claim, I can't get into the details of it, but our insurance company is just a matter of business. When they get a claim, they automatically put the property owner on notice that there may be shared or joint liability. It doesn't mean that there is. Each situation's different, but it's just a matter of protocol in terms of how they handle the claim. So you know, our adjuster is looking at that now, I believe, in cooperation with your homeowner's insurance as well. So I wanted to clarify those things. We do plan on meeting with the Homeowners Association. We were trying for the 2nd or 3rd week of May, I believe, and I think it's been rescheduled now. Yeah, so because of some schedule conflicts, that did get delayed, but I am, on this specific claim, working with our adjuster to take a look at how to deal with it. And then we'll review the ordinance with the homeowners association and make sure that everyone's educated in terms of what the requirements are. So that's our plan for now.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. Next speaker card is Linda Popke.
Good evening. My name is Linda Popke, and I live in Redwood Shores. I live right adjacent to Steinberg Slough. In fact, my property abuts against the levee and then against the slough there. I moved here almost 2 years ago because I walked out onto that levee and I said, it is so quiet and peaceful, and this is a wonderful community. And what I found out about a month ago is the Silicon Valley Clean Water Authority out on the edge of the point here needs to replace their sewage pipe for the entire mid-peninsula. This is not just for Redwood City, but it goes through Redwood City, Redwood Shores. There are 4 possible places that they can put this pipe. One is within the slough, which they've determined is environmentally not feasible. The second is in the lagoon, which they think is also very expensive. The third is under Redwood Shores Parkway, which might cause some traffic issues. And the fourth, which is their preferred version or their preferred route, according to the meeting I attended at the authority, is in the levee next to the slough. Now, this levee is part of our flood control. It is FEMA certified. It is also the environmental protection for a very sensitive area, an area that has signs that says dogs are not even allowed off leash because this is so sensitive. And we're talking about several endangered species that live there. However, they are talking about taking big earth-moving equipment onto the levee and the trail, which is used by hundreds of people a day in terms of walkers, joggers, people on bicycles, people with dogs, et cetera. But beyond that, the damage and the potential damage to the environment because of the type of vibration, noise, et cetera, that will go on, and this could be quite severe and quite significant. Furthermore, they're talking about taking a pipe which is more than 5 feet in diameter and will be carrying raw human sewage at a fairly high pressure. I understand the need to replace the old pipe. The old pipe is beyond its current capacity and there is potential for problems. But they're taking this pipe that will be carrying this sewage and putting it in an area right against, we have what we call Young Bay mud, which means that it's not very stable land. They're putting it right below the levee, or that's what they're proposing. In case of an earthquake, it's quite possible this whole thing could move, and we could wind up with sludge, not sludge, sewage, raw sewage in the slough and all over the place and up against our neighborhood. So I understand that, Mr. Siebert, you're on the commission. I understand that even though this pipe really addresses the needs of the entire Mid-Peninsula and not Redwood Shores, since we wouldn't even be tying into that, it does require Redwood City approval to move forward because of the percentage of population of Redwood City versus the other towns. We'd like to strongly request that Redwood City, and I understand you can't take any action tonight, but that Redwood City make a recommendation to the authority that the preferred pathway is under Redwood Shores Parkway. There is microtunneling technology, which could limit the amount of traffic displacement during this. It would not cause an environmental issue. It would not cause an earthquake and seismic potential issue. It would not cause an issue of potential damage to the homeowners up against this potential construction project. So we would like to bring this to the attention of the council. And we are prepared to work with all the local, state, and national environmental authorities who may be of interest, because this land does belong to the state, and it is an environmentally sensitive area.
Thank you, Ms. Popke. Did anyone have any questions or clarifying questions or any comments? I'm sure you'll hear more from this. This is not done yet. So it's
Oh, I know that.
I would guarantee it's a work in progress, so thank you.
Thank you.
Abdel Ismail.
My name is Abdel Ismail. I live and work in the city of Redwood City. I am an architect and developer. And I am here to talk about a situation that the ordinance require for anybody to build over 1,000 square feet, either addition or new, has to provide a fire sprinkler system in the house. And in order to do that, it has to be supported, or it has to be connected to a minimum 6-inch water main. And if it is not there in the street, he has to do it at his own expense. And so far, I have built 4 water main extensions, each one minimum cost over $100,000. And in the last 12 months, I built 2 of them, and one of them on Quartz Street. And it came to my knowledge that a neighbor down the street who owns, or he owned a house and he bought another house next door to it. And with these 2 houses, he can develop and build 5 homes. And I understand also that somewhere, I'm not sure if it is Burlingame or somewhere there, they have a system of a payback system, because in my situation, this neighbor, when he developed 5 homes, he can tap to the line I built, and the only thing he has to pay is the regular standard meter fee. So I'm asking the city if there is to develop some kind of a payback system, like I understand also some counties has the same thing. So if this is possible, would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ismail. Any clarifying questions? What I think I heard is that if you're the first one in, that there should be some program for reimbursing a share of the cost for whoever comes in later to tap into that 6-inch line. Did I get that kind of right? Close? Very good. Thank you. Dr. Bell?
For the mayor and for the audience tonight, we'd be happy to look into the ordinance then and see what other cities do and see how we might be able to modify it to work better for our community.
Great. Thank you. I think that'd be a good research to take a look what other municipalities are doing and see if we can adopt some lessons learned from other places. Next speaker card is from Bob Wilson.
Thank you. And thank you for coming to Redwood Shores. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your service for all that you do. It's a great town, and the people make it great. I'm here also to talk about the water main project, or the raw sewage project. It's a huge issue, as you know. We were treated to, and I mean treated, to a great education by Dan Child and his staff, who do an outstanding job with the resources they have. But I think we need a lot more leadership from this council and from your partner councils that are part of that district. We're talking about a $500 million project that seems to be escalating. That estimate was about $400 million just a few years ago. The increase is not just to the water main project, it's all the related projects, but the pipeline is by far the biggest issue. The first issue, related to this project that we came to find is the data relating to what's causing this need is really thin. Even now, after lots of questions and many meetings, we haven't been able to see any of the data that really tells us why this system needs to be replaced. First, we were told about water main breaks, then we were told about flow. We'd like to see some real data. And the data doesn't correspond to the growth in either our business or residential population. So something else is going on out there. And I think, again, we need your leadership and the leadership of the rest of the representatives of about 200,000 people in the Silicon Valley Water District area to figure out what is causing this problem. We're seeing significant increases during rainy season, apparently. There must be some incursion going on into our system when we see that much rain coming into our sewage system, when that system is not really designed to handle sewage or wastewater. It's really designed for sewage water. The concern I think I'd have as a member of the community is that if the water is leaking in from the lateral lines from homes to the main sewer lines, which seems to be one of the theories, then is that sewage also leaking out? Do we already have a much more serious environmental problem going on throughout our communities? Spending $500 million to get a bigger pipeline into Redwood Shores to continue to keep the plant flowing, which relates something like 12 million gallons a day, I believe, of sewage, also seems misplaced. We would never put that plant here today. We would never put that sort of a chemical and processing plant in the middle of this community with the environmental concerns and so forth. And spending hundreds of millions of dollars to keep that plant here makes no sense. That plant ought to be resited. This isn't a $500 million problem. It's a $1 billion problem. And I think with the community that we're serving and considering, you know, the amazing amount of high tech from Facebook in the south to Electronic Arts and Arkell in the north, Woodside and all the various entrepreneurs that we have in this footprint of 200,000 people, we ought to be thinking much bigger, and we ought to be thinking about a more comprehensive solution. Because at the end of this pipeline, and after all the treatment is done, even with the recycling program that Redwood City is leading with, we still dump 11 million gallons of treated water into the bay each day. And what a shame. For $500 million, we ought to be able to take a lot more of that water and start addressing the very serious water problem that clearly we have, with or without drought, in the state of California. So again, 3 minutes for our share of that $500 million doesn't do it justice. We take about 55% of that budget, as I understand it, so this is a $200 million issue for the council if it stays at this current estimate. That is 10 times what the local district's annual budget is. Our budget, I think, is about $80 million a year, so it's 3 or 4 times what our budget is here. It's a massive, massive issue that needs more than Redwood Shores involved to sort out what the proper approach is, and we need to do this urgently. And I guess I would ask, until this is done and sorted out, why are we not putting some sort of moratorium on further development and building until we really have a plan that makes sense here? And that's, at the end of the day, my current question, and certainly look forward to continuing discussions as better solutions are put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Joe, is it Verga? And again, if you'd like to speak, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to our city clerk.
I'm Joe Verga. I live at 12 Lido Circle, which is on the levee. The sewer line problem again. One of the primary routes that was discussed at the various meetings is down the levee. That's not in the levee, but adjacent to the levee, in the path that exists in the levee at this time. So I just did a little search myself. The distance from the base of the levee to my fence is 20 feet. This hole they're going to put in the pipe will be at least 10 feet wide and 10 feet deep. And the equipment is almost 20 feet wide in order to dig it and move the dirt. So my concern is, I don't know if the city council's been involved or not, but this is going to be a major disruption no matter where it's put in. It doesn't serve Redwood Shores because our sewer line is separate from that 36-inch line. It is important for the footprint of the community, as this was spoken about. But there are lots of routes to put this down into the sewer plant which would not cause such disruption. And one thought, which was not discussed as one of the possibilities, is to actually run it down the median, that area between the 2 lanes that go into Redwood Shores and Redwood Shores Parkway where the plants and the trees are. I'd like that to be a consideration. Talking to the gentleman at the sewer plant, that route would require less disruption in traffic. It would require less depth of digging because the utilities aren't in the median. They're either to one side or the other of the street. And it would cost less problem for the homeowners. And you can imagine if you're digging a very large trench and pounding in supports in that trench, what it might do to my swimming pool, which is 25 feet from the base of the levee. Or the house, and these old houses in that area that built in the 1980s have already shifted a little bit, what that might cost to the houses closest to the levee, which would shift quite a bit more, I think. So I'd like the city council to be more involved in this as it goes along, rather than just being something done by the larger organizations and the sewer system itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Verga. Would there anybody else like to share some thoughts with the council or Councilmember Bain?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say for Mr. Berger's benefit as well as those in the audience, this is not the way that our meetings typically work in the fact that I'm hearing about these issues for the first time, and I'm sure that it would be, you would probably like to hear us have a dialogue about this. But the way that it normally works is we would get a staff report, which would give us some background, which would give us some options for discussion, that sort of thing, if we were doing this as a study session. So I just wanted the audience to be aware that we're not responding to these particular issues in many cases because we're hearing them for the first time from you. And I can assure you that I have complete faith in our staff that they will investigate the situation and make sure that we're all up to speed on what's going on.
Thank you, Councilmember Bain. I'm going to ask Councilmember Siebert just to offer a few comments. He is our council representative to, I got to get the words right, SVW, Silicon Valley CW, Silicon Valley Clean Water. And he's been very involved with this and knows, and so he'll share some thoughts on that.
Thank you, Mayor G. Yes, Silicon Valley Clean Water, we're all getting used to it. It's still on my calendar out for the next couple of years as SBSA, so I'll continue to refer to it as that. We know what it is. This project, although I'm new to this commission after Councilmember Ira's retirement, I took over him, was appointed to this by our mayor, and it's become eye-opening. I was certainly aware of it before that, but this project, as it's moved along, has become eye-opening. I can tell you that when I hear words like preferred options, as one of the 4 voting members, and as you know, and thankfully, I think in some ways, Redwood City carries a huge amount of weight because we vote according to how much the fees that each city pays, so we carry over a majority of that. I can tell you that as one of the voting members of that, there is absolutely no preferred alternative. We have heard basically the same information that you've had. I know in going through 8 years on the Planning Commission and now into my 5th year on the City Council that these planning processes are complex and deep and involve a lot of environmental study and engineering study, and we are at the very beginning stages of that process to get to the right answer. And I can assure you, and we'll continue to work with the input of our council, but I can assure you that as a new resident of Redwood Shores, although I don't live on that levee, this will not be done without the full consideration of all the options, and the best way to do it with the least disruption that continues to provide structural integrity to our sewer system. Because what we can't do is have the current system fail. Whether or not it's carrying Redwood Shores, the plant is there. The relocation of it, $1 billion would probably just get us started to replace that plant. It was just rebuilt a few years ago, so that's how new that is. But I can assure you that at the end of the process, we will get to the right answer. I share a lot of the same concerns about the levy. I share a lot of concerns about the other options. So we'll continue to look at that. We are getting an update on, today's Monday, we're getting an update on Thursday morning about the process and about the project. So I don't have really some of you have spoken to the staff there even more recently than I have and have some of that information, so we will get that. Encourage you to stay involved, you can email me your thoughts, and as others have done, and continue to provide that information to me as I represent this council on that body. But again, I want to make it very clear. Moving forward, and I will say this, moving forward in an environmental impact report, at some point there has to be an alternative that's put forward as what's called the project. Some see that as the preferred alternative, but something has to put forward. You don't go into an EIR process. It's just the nature of CEQA, and you see that all the time. You don't go into a process without something being the project or the preferred alternative. But that even in that process is far from being decided by our body. So we are sensitive to the needs of it. The other 3 gentlemen that I work with on that, from West Bay Sanitary, from Belmont, and from San Carlos, are all very concerned and very open to make sure that it's handled correctly. So,
Thank you, Councilmember Siebert, for the update, and I'm sure there's more to come. Absolutely. Are there any other speakers? Anyone wants to share any thoughts? Looks like Carol Wong is going to be up here. So, Carol?
I was going to try to wait till the end, but that didn't work out.
Why save to the
I
end?
know, it's like, sitting in the back at church, Well, first of all, thank you for having a council meeting here, because it's the first one, and I think it's a city council priority about creating a pedestrian-friendly environment. This is the first meeting that we've gotten to walk to a meeting, so hooray. So thank you for that. I'm going to offer a few comments from 2 points of view. And is Alan Wearspa here? No, okay.
He went to his meeting.
Oh, he did? Okay. So Alan had sent me, from Sandpiper Lagoon, had sent me, well, if you do speak, could you please relay the following kinds of questions? And so they're in several buckets, so I'm going to relay them. One, he was looking for a status of the new wireless towers within the shores. I think there are 2 sites, one at the fire station, behind the fire station. The other one was perhaps at Lighthouse Cove. He wanted any update on state level or FCC ruling, anything update with respect to that. And I think all of those other questions were surrounded that. So I know that City Council approved outside counsel to go address that, so he wanted an update. Now, as for myself, speaking for the Redwood Shores Owners Association, I have been meeting with a variety of city staff, Bill Eckern, Bob Bell, and all around the topic of we believe and have observed that through all of the staffing changes, we're losing institutional memory. So for the processes that Redwood Shores Owners Associations and even our local HOAs, as they try to govern their respective areas, that we've often interacted in the past with city staff to coordinate such things like exterior building modifications and how that goes through permitting, or how does the lagoon bank policy get enforced out here, and what's the role of the city in that versus the HOA. So in that myriad of interlocking, for whatever reason, whoever created Redwood Shores, here we are in a very heavily interlocked kind of governance process where we each have our rules and regulations, but we each are dependent on each other for the same outcome, which is a thriving, healthy, community. So I just wanted to give you an update that Bob is, we're on the same page with, we ought to be able to do this, and we have consultants filling some roles, we have staffing changes, so we have to just get everybody in place and start to educate each other as to how stuff should work. And then even in the absence of having enough staff, clearly we have to figure out ways to have interlocking processes so that we don't end up with homeowners who don't build what either the HOA or the city has said they could build. What do we do with that? And so there's all sorts of things where we can get tangled up. So along with Sue Nix from RSCA, the Community Association, we're meeting with Bob to kind of work through that, and we have a long issues list. We haven't talked to council about any of these issues because we believe we ought to be able to get it done at the staff level, and if we can't, we may come running to you guys for help. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. Dr. Bell or Ms. Thompson, do you want to say anything about where we are with some of the Wi-Fi issues or wireless issues, tower issues? Because the council has taken some actions and there are things going on.
Feeling a little short right there, and trying to get to the mic. So with respect to wireless facilities, I don't know if some of you are aware of that, as Ms. Wong brought up, that some time ago the FCC proposed some new rulemaking which would severely limit the local control and discretion that cities and other government agencies normally would have over siting of wireless facilities. So with the City Council's authorization, the City of Redwood City joined a coalition of cities across the nation to provide comments to the FCC objecting to those proposed rules and instead suggesting different rules. So we have submitted our comments as part of that group, and we are awaiting further word from the FCC. It's my understanding that in the meantime, the other facilities that have been proposed here were put on hold while we work through that process.
Is it possible to get a copy of the filed copy?
Yes, yes. If you do, that would be great. I'll get you the link.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Cindy Shea, did that answer your question?
Yes,
Or
that was the answer. Thank
All right, thank you. All right, any other speakers, any other comments? Please.
This is a small problem compared to the other.
So can you come up to the mics and just say who you are and fill out a speaker card afterwards, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, a very small problem compared to the other issues that have been discussed here tonight. When can we get some pothole relief right here on Marine Parkway? Driving home from work every night, going around and around all the potholes. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was your name, please?
Susan Clark.
Thank you.
Yeah. Vice Mayor Faust.
One of the things you may want to do if you haven't already, and it speaks to kind of the pothole question, is you can download the My Redwood City app on your phone. So it's a good way to kind of track different issues. It's helpful. The one thing I would ask, and I found myself in another part of the town, and when I tried to report something, because it's normally tied to like where you live, I don't know why it wouldn't.
Wouldn't accept your request?
Well, it was asking for my home address versus where I was at the moment. So I'm just thinking to myself, if like anyone's out and about and they want to report something, you want to report it from where you're at versus where you live.
And, well, I guess two things. You don't need to use the app to report these potholes because I wrote it down, and so we will look into it and see what we could do about it. And then I know our assistant city manager is in the audience who helped develop the mobile app. I don't want to put you on the spot, Audrey, but any clarification on the address thing, or is that something we can look into and get fixed?
It should not be doing what you're saying, so I will pursue it as a bug and we'll get it fixed.
And I could be technologically challenged too, so we can just go with that, and maybe you can show me.
I didn't want to say that, but we will gladly review the app with
I
you,
figured
Vice Mayor.
kind of.
Mr. Eckern, since you're here, would you like to just make a few comments about the tree roots and the pavement? I mean, you shared thoughts and comments and direction at the Redwood Shores Community Association annual meeting, but we get different audiences out here. So could you just, along with the potholes, the ripples, the tree roots, the whole thing?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Yes, in general, we are trying to track the potholes in the street. If we know where they are, we can move on them quickly with our public works crews. For the trees in the Marine Parkway and Bridge Parkway where we're getting the rippling in the street, we're going to try a demonstration project this year where we're going to go into the section, cut out a deep section. So it will cut off some of the roots of the Italian stone pines, but we believe that will damage them less than removing them and allow us to repair that section of street. And if that works, and at least in these areas where we're getting tree roots in the street, that'll be a process that we can go with going forward, which I think will help preserve the trees, which have another 25 or 50 years to go. And so we think that will work. As far as tree roots in general, I don't know how far you want me to get into dealing with.
Not too far.
Tree roots.
We knew they have to hang up top, so.
But they are an issue depending on how much moisture there is in the ground and where they are. Very difficult out here in Redwood Shores because the topsoil is very shallow and they immediately hit the salty bay muds that they can't go into, and so they do tend to rise up to the surface throughout the area, and it's an ongoing maintenance problem both for the city on public property and the private property owners in your own houses.
Thank you, Mr. Eckern. If there aren't any other speakers, or did you have, okay, come on, we're here, take advantage. Please state your name and fill out a speaker card for our records later.
I'm Julie Abraham, and I just had a couple of questions. One was if there's any kind of update or status on the salt ponds and rezoning or any information about any change of maps because it's open space. And then the second one came up on the news the other day. I was listening, and I guess with the growth of Google and the amount of traffic that's going to hit the 101, Mountain View, the city of Mountain View, was actually considering putting in a toll road. And the explanation was that they were going to use an economic method of trying to encourage people to leave their cars at home. And I was wondering if Redwood City if that's something that maybe is has been discussed or is if you can imagine that not happening. But just to check in with you and see if that's, if you'd heard that and what you think about it. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie.
Can I get a speaker card?
They're back on the counter. If you get to that. Do you want to deal with the salt works, or would you like me to?
I'm more than happy to give that to you.
The easy answer about the salt works, and I'm sure all of you, if not most of you, remember the controversy with DMB and development. There's no project. There's nothing there. Everything is status quo. Whatever zoning is there remains the zoning. It was not touched with the general plan update. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing going on in Redwood City. I know there's some conversations going on in Washington, D.C., but there's nothing happening here in Redwood City. With regard to the toll road, the first time I've heard of it, but there's going to be some interesting challenges, and maybe Councilmember Gary can help share with her thoughts, since she serves on the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, MTC, as well as a lawsuit that was filed just the other day in San Francisco about the buses that use the Muni stops. And that lawsuit, while was targeted, I believe, to the tech companies that are using it, there was a long, exhaustive list of DOEs 1 through 10 and a number of other agencies, including the Peninsula Traffic Congestion Relief Alliance, which I chair, which is San Mateo County's transportation demand management organization. While we see a lot of people taking the train, the biggest issue is the last mile. How do you get people from the train station to where they work? PTCRA doesn't use any of the San Francisco Muni stops, yet we're named in the lawsuit, and we don't have the budgetary capacity to go on for lengthy legal fees. And so that's a conversation I'll be having shortly with my board and the executive director on how we do this, because that lawsuit sort of named everybody. And you know what happens when you get into a lawsuit, the attorneys get involved, and it's not an expensive proposition. No offense to the attorneys, but for agencies like ours that provide San Mateo County's transportation demand management services, we're being put in a very challenging, if not difficult, situation. I think they're trying to have a conversation with the Corps of Engineers and Fish and Game as their land here. And that is a federal jurisdictional issue that I'm glad we're here in Redwood City, and that conversation's happening across the country, because they are the governing agencies about whether it's water, land, or something else. That's not for us to figure out here, luckily, at least at this point in life. Councilmember Aguirre, did you want to add anything from the MTC perspective?
I think you pretty much addressed it. Not long ago, San Francisco had the same proposition of charging residents from San Mateo County to drive into San Francisco. I think what we're looking at are, at the MTC level, our public and private partnerships. So how does that really happen when these are really folks that pay taxes, but they're using private buses, and we have private-public partnerships because they want to use some of the stops. So there's a lot of discussion at those levels, especially in San Francisco. We're not dealing with that so much down on the peninsula, but they are driving on the peninsula as well. So are they going to have opportunities to use the high occupancy vehicle lanes when some of these are going to become tolls? So there's more discussion of toll roads on the freeways versus into Mountain View. I think it's a discussion that city is looking at because of the buses that are going through that city. I don't think we've seen that in our city going down Main Street or Broadway or El Camino yet. So, but the discussion is more at the level of the 101 and making it, there's going to be parts of it that are going to be proposed to be tolled. And so that you have the opportunity to pay and move quicker on those.
Councilmember Howard, did you want to add on anything about the experiments that those companies, those tech companies like Facebook and Google and maybe Rocket Fuel are looking for, doing something different than buses on the highway?
Oh, thank you. Yes, there's
great news on the horizon for some suggested alternatives in transportation. And some of the large companies that have moved into our area have hired ferries. They've did it on a demonstration basis. It was a pilot program to start with. And they've been working with Mike Giari, who is the executive director of the Port of Redwood City, and the port itself. And they've been very successful. They finished their demonstration project, but they found their employees absolutely loved the idea of being on a ferry and going to work, using their computers and such, and they're taking their bicycles and sitting non-stressed and riding to work on a boat rather than a car. So I'm real happy about that, because that's something Redwood City has been part of a plan, a long-term plan that started back in 1997. And there was a blueprint created by the Water Emergency Transit Authority, which included Redwood City. Now, recognizing that we weren't a top priority at that time because we didn't have much development in Redwood City at the time the plan was created, you can imagine we weren't high on the list. But things have changed, times have changed, and we have a lot more development, planned development, and so we are being considered in the future for water transit, public water transit. But in the meantime, I'm happy to report that there are some companies who've stepped up and said, we'll pay for a ferry. We want to see if our employees enjoy it, if they'll stay with our company and we retain them because we offer this alternative. And it has proved quite successful. So we'll keep you abreast of that. Right now, I think that for doing a public ferry, it's going to create a big push, a lot more money. But South San Francisco did open up and has a ferry service. It's a little sluggish, but it has been growing steadily, which is very encouraging, because if South San Francisco is successful with their water transit, Redwood City will be the natural city to start next with the Water Emergency Transit Authority and getting our ferry started. So that's good news to report, and would take a great deal of cars off the road, wouldn't you think?
It's a great start.
That's right. We may do some demos in the future, things like going to Giants games or going to the farmers market up in San Francisco, as we did in the past. And that's being talked about in the future, and we will try to get that information out as quickly as possible when and if we do get that going. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Councilmember Howard. Since we have sort of a captive audience for a little longer, Dr. Bell, did you want to give the community an update on anything? I know we have a couple new maps about downtown, one showing all over development, and I think we have an updated parking map.
Yes, we do. So if you go to the city's website, you'll see both maps that the mayor referred to. One is a downtown construction map. And so on it, it describes all the various developments that are currently under construction in our downtown. It has little pictures of what they're going to look like, their square footage, their use, and target completion date. So it's really informative, and also gives you a good sense of really how things will shape up in our downtown. Really, in about 2 years, most of these projects should be completed. And I guess that brings me to something in terms of the toll lane. I mean, overall, the objectives of our general plan and our downtown precise plan is to encourage transit-oriented development. And to look at programs like complete streets and those sorts of things. And so we might not have a toll lane specifically on the list, but we have an overall objective and game plan through this council and through their direction in our planning areas to encourage people to not really just drive into Redwood City or drive around town. So I wanted to point that out as well. The other map that we have is for those that still choose to drive to the downtown, and that's a new parking map. And so with a lot of the construction, it's impacted parking. And so we updated a map recently that shows the available parking garages, the rates, the hours, knowing that our county garage, the county parking garage is still free on nights and weekends, so we encourage people to park there. So that's another map that you'll see on the website as well. And then there's one other very exciting thing happening this Thursday night in our downtown, which is the first in a series of Stanford speaking series And so the first one's this Thursday night. I have some flyers here. It starts at 5:30, goes to 5:30 to 7, and then the Stanford Marching Band will be playing at Courthouse Square after that.
Do they really march?
Well, we will see. We will see. I do know they play instruments, if nothing else. So that should be a lot of fun. And again, I have some flyers here. One of the speakers is Tara Vandiver, who is the girls basketball coach, and I've heard her speak before. Very engaging and entertaining, so hopefully all of you can make it down there this Thursday night.
Thank you, Dr. Bell.
Sorry. It was water. And also your newsletter, Mayor G, about how we're not making our 10% water conservation voluntary cuts. So my question was, and I read that in the news recently, I think it's Sacramento, they started monitoring and educating people and walking around, they see somebody washing their car, et cetera. So if our 10% voluntary is not working, do we have any kind of game plan for how we can nudge people along to do better?
I'm sorry, what was that, nudge?
Nudge. It's like nudge, but nudge. Thank you.
In a polite way, right?
It's just a lot more education, a lot more outreach, and just talking about the subject. And it's a little challenging from my perspective also, because we all have every other month water bills. So when you do something and you have to wait kind of 2 months before you see if it really worked, there's sort of a time lag to see if we did enough. Because I think we asked for voluntary reduction in February, possibly. I mean, we made so now's like the next series of water bills will be, did you really do it? And I'm not advocating for necessarily monthly water bills, but there's a lag point. There's no question, we do all need to do a better job of saying we need to save water. We need to educate. We need to do, the best thing to do is on your landscape irrigation, short cycle, nighttime watering. And if you haven't, try to hook up to recycled water out here, particularly in the shores. But we do have a lot of work in front of us. It is a very dry year, and I do expect voluntary to change to some sort of mandatory in the short-term future, which means things will be a little browner than we're used to.
I was thinking of a campaign, how low can you go?
Or is that like, if it's brown, flush it down, if it's yellow, let it mellow? I'm that old. Dr. Bell, did you want to add anything?
I don't have anything as clever as that to add, but what I would want to say is that if the situation worsens, the city does have a water management plan, and within that plan, it speaks to different measures that we would take under certain drought conditions. I won't get into all of that now because I don't remember all of them, but there is that plan that we would then have to, look at and potentially implement both as a city and with our community. Again, that's only if the situation was to get much worse and if the drought continued into next year and beyond. So I wanted to share that as well.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. Please.
Related to the water, does the city have the authority to ask the restaurants or to order the restaurants to not serve water unless asked for? Because this was something that was implemented back in, I want to say, 1977, and throughout the state. And I don't understand. We're in dire need, and it does not seem to have bubbled up, to use an expression about water. But if we could, as a city, implement that, I think that would be helpful.
We'll take a look at that. I do remember that. I was going to say the 70s, and so I wasn't too far off, so thank you. Number one, thank you all for being here. What I'd like to do is do two more things. Since we have a number of department heads here, if they would like to share anything, I know we have I think it's called the Super Bookmobile coming here on Wednesday. But if there is anything that any of our department heads would like to share, and then what I'd like to do is ask every council member to share some thoughts or reflections on what they heard tonight, or share something fun or new or different that hasn't been talked about to just inform the Redwood Shores community. So I don't know, Dave or Chris, anyone in our chiefs, if there's anything that you want to share with our community here?
I don't need a microphone, but I'm going to the podium.
It is a Super Bookmobile.
So this Wednesday, the Shores Library in the parking lot, we're going to have a 800,000 long big rig It's a digital big rig bookmobile that's going to show everyone how to all our latest and new tricks of downloading all our books, our magazines, our music, our videos and movies through our library collection. We're going to have music, gifts, games. So it's 12 to 6 this Wednesday. Tell your neighbors, but tell your kids after school. Try to get here after school. It should be fun and educating. So,
Does it do sewer lines too?
what's that?
Does it do sewer lines too?
Yes.
I'm going to put Chris Beth, our Parks and Rec Director, on the spot. So Chris, why don't you come up? You always have so much going on.
Good evening. Really enjoy the relationship we have with the Redwood Shores Association, the Community Association. I see Sue here, and of course Harris. We have the summer concerts coming again at Marlin Park. I believe it's June 22nd is our first one. We have 3. They're on Sundays. We've experimented, and Sundays really seem to work very well. Also for downtown, if you like the downtown concerts, we're going to be starting up the first Friday in June. So hope you can come on down and enjoy that as well.
Who's the opening act, Chris?
Oh, you
Yours
put
would be
me
a
on the
surprise?
spot. Yeah, okay.
Surprise,
Actually,
okay.
we are going to be releasing the schedule on Monday. I've been sworn to secrecy, actually, so I can't do it. Also, we have on Friday before, we have a summer concert preview night. It's a kickoff. It's a fundraiser. All this is brought to you by our sponsors and individual fundraising. Our council does a great job, too, helping out, and we hope you come out and support that. That'll be on Friday, May 30th at 6 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else, Bob, you want to highlight?
Yes, I would actually. So our police chief, J.R. Gamez, is in the audience as well. So why don't we have J.R. up just to say a few words?
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come and just share some thoughts with you. So one of the things that we actually have coming up, we did a pretty good job this year of educating all our schools in what we call Code Red. And that's basically, as you guys know, all the tragedies that are going on across our nation. I feel that it's important for our police department as well as our fire department to be prepared to have to take on something, an event like that if it one actually transpired. So one of the first phases was to make sure that the schools, the children, the teachers all know what they need to do if an event like that happens. The next part of it is a great collaboration that's going on with the fire department on June 8th. We're going to be actually the first city in the county that's actually going to be hosting a major exercise. It's a big training exercise. And the idea behind that is we want to see and we want to test our folks on if we do have a situation like that, how well will we respond? And we're actually going to be doing some things with the fire department that not a lot of other departments do together. And the idea behind it is having fire responders go further into an incident like that when one happens. That takes training, it takes a lot of collaboration, and one thing's for sure, we have a great collaboration between both departments, and this exercise will really culminate our enhanced school safety plan, which was one of the things that I tried to drive about a year and a half ago. So that's one of the things that is coming up along with a lot of our town hall meetings. So we'll be having one here, I believe it's in September, if I'm not mistaken, and Coffee with Cops. They're on our website. We'd love to have you guys come out and join us. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, we do have our fire chief in the audience as well, so why don't we just bring him up? I feel like I have to give everyone an equal opportunity here, so Chief Skinner.
Well, thank you. As we get in, while talking about water and the lack of with the drought, I'd like to remind the community to be fire safe as we move into the summer months and we want to barbecue, and especially out in the shores, we have some situations where we could have potential for some disasters if you're not careful with barbecues on decks or close to wood siding, et cetera. So remind your neighbors to be safe with barbecues. If you're going to have a big community barbecue, remember to invite the fire department. We absolutely love barbecues. We're more than happy to come by and say hello. The other thing is that this is Arson Awareness Week, and you might not think it hits our community, but it absolutely does. So just be aware, be vigilant, and be on the lookout. That's all I have, so thank you.
I'll just want to do a quick introduction. We have our Assistant Fire Chief, Stan Maupin, in the audience as well. So thank you for being here, Stan. We already heard from our Community Development Director, Bill Eckern. If anything else you want to add tonight, or you're good? All right. And then Audrey Ramberg, our Assistant City Manager. Anything you'd like to report out on, Audrey, or we covered it? Okay.
You and the mayor, vice mayor, plus my two that
Okay.
have flyers.
All right, great. So I think we're taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. What I'd like to do now is just ask council for any thoughts, comments, or anything you'd like to share with the community. So Councilmember Howard, could you start us off?
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Mayor G and our city staff for arranging the meeting this evening. I really enjoyed it. I'd also like to thank all of you for coming out this evening. It's a wonderful crowd. I have to say, this is a bigger crowd than we sometimes get at our city council meetings in the heart of downtown. So this is really wonderful to see all of your faces here this evening. I did want to make one announcement, and it's about the Mayor's Beautification Awards. And that's a program that's been in existence for over 20 years. It was started by then Mayor Georgie LaBerge. And the deadline for applications is the end of May. And I would love to see you nominate some homes in Redwood Shores. What we're looking for are gardens, beautiful gardens, maybe drought-tolerant gardens, or just beautiful gardens in general, maybe a new remodel that you've noticed, someone who's fixed up their home. You could even nominate an association as a whole if they've done some landscaping around their properties. But you can do it online. We try to make it as simple as possible. The application is there. You just look under the Redwood City website and look under Mayor's Beautification Awards. Again, the deadline would be the end of May, and I would love to be able to see Redwood Shores reflected in those nominations, because there are some beautiful properties out here, some beautiful gardens. And when we do showcase them at our meeting, people do come and visit those gardens and get ideas on how to fix up their own home or fix up their garden. So I would say pay particular attention to people who do something innovative around water conservation. I'd love to reward them with a nomination and an award at a council meeting. So thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing me to make that announcement.
Thank you, Councilmember Howard. Councilmember Bain.
Yeah, so I guess the first thought I had was I'm surprised nobody brought up goose poop. In all seriousness, I do appreciate everybody who came out and brought our attention to the issues that are on your minds. It's really interesting because Redwood Shores is such an engaged community. And if you look around the whole of Redwood City, it's not always like that. You're very lucky to have a group of people who care so much and come out and get together and talk about these kinds of issues. And so I'm glad we had this opportunity. As I was listening to the conversation, it made me think a lot about our strategic plan and our annual report. I think a lot of the things that were brought up tonight fall into those buckets. And so if you haven't had a chance to go on our website and take a look at our council priorities, it includes things like infrastructure and traffic and transportation and government operations, youth and education. I'm going to forget some, and I'm probably wrong on some of these, but it's community building and communications. It's a sense of aesthetics, or the way things look in the community. And I think for future meetings like this, we should probably go through each of those categories and just to have a little bit more structure to the meeting, say, let's talk about infrastructure. You know, what are the issues on your mind? If it's the sewer line, if it's sidewalks and trees, that'll, I think, help us get a little bit more of a logical flow to the meeting. But I do appreciate all of you coming out, and thank you to the mayor for this interesting experiment.
Thank you, Councilmember Bain. Councilmember Aguirre.
I want to thank the mayor and all the council, especially the staff that came out tonight to Redwood Shores to help showcase our city. And I think you can see from the excitement of all of us that we're really enthusiastic about what's going on in our city. And I hope that you continue to feel that it's your city as well. And I really appreciate the comments that were made today and the areas that perhaps were new to us that we don't really know, and because it is a separate community, but it is one city. So I appreciate you coming out and sharing these thoughts, and I hope to see you at our other meetings as well, whether there are issues or no issues, because I think it's very important for us to hear from all of you.
Thank you, Councilmember Aguirre. Councilmember Pierce, any thoughts or reflections?
I was very happy to see so many people who are engaged, and it reminds me that we always see people when there's something that's really bothering them, and so I really look forward to hearing more about what's happening with, and I'm going to call it SBSA and not go with the new initials, and the sewer line, and look forward to hearing from our staff and from you, John. I have a plug, and maybe you can help me, Chris, with the date. If you like history, the Historic Union Cemetery has a Memorial Day celebration. Is it on Memorial Day this year? Okay. So look it up. The cemetery is on Woodside Road, and if you haven't ever been to it, it is a fascinating drawback to Americana, and I just think you'd really enjoy it. So take the time on Memorial Day, go down and experience it. And how many of you have been to the summer concerts? Show of hands. Okay, excellent. So you know how fabulous it is. So you probably don't recognize me because I don't have my red balloon and my vest on. However, if you would like to have fun and meet a lot of your other neighbors from the rest of Redwood City and beyond, please let me know if you'd like to walk around and help us collect funds to keep the concerts going and to support them. The Begging with Buckets group has a wonderful time, and we've raised about $20,000 last year and the year before, and so it's a little bit, but it's really a lot of fun. So if you're interested, my name's on the website.
Thank you, Councilmember Pierce. Councilmember Seibert.
I don't know which way it's better. We'll buy longer mic cords. So first, a couple of thank yous. You trying to take it out of my hand? So I wasn't going to talk about you, but now. One, thank you all for coming. I've said, we all have said this at some point, but we sign up for this. We sign up to be out on Monday nights, and I know that many of you don't. So I thank you for coming out. It is an engaged community, and that's good news to us, because what we don't want to know is when things are quiet, it's like small children. When they're really quiet is probably the time you really need to pay attention. So thank you for coming out. Thank you to our staff. I was reminded, not only with our staff here, but before many of you showed up tonight, we were interviewing for many of the, I don't know how many dozens of positions we have within our city structure of our boards, commissions, and committees. But I think all of my colleagues would agree with me that we don't do the heavy lifting. Our boards, committees, and commission members and our staff do a tremendous amount of the heavy lifting that we most of the time get to take credit for. So thank you. And with that, with regards to the sewer, the Silicon Valley clean water, I've committed myself to trying to go with that. Continue to be diligent, to work hard in that area. Again, I just want to assure you that that process is nowhere near decision time, and we'll continue to stay on top of that. I will say this, and I appreciate this about, it's something that I heard Mayor G say throughout the campaign, and even in his comments the night that he was appointed mayor by us, and that is one of the things that I am committed to doing, that our council is committed to not doing anymore, and that's kicking the can down the road of deferred infrastructure maintenance. These things aren't always easy, they're not always popular, they are never cheap, but I can tell you that as opposed to some agencies in the Bay Area that we've experienced in recent years, we will not kick that deferred maintenance can down the road. There are problems we've got to take care of now, or we will pass them on to our children and the future generations. And I'm committed to not doing that, so that we can finally address some of the critical issues that need to be addressed.
Thank you, Councilmember Seibert. Vice Mayor Faust.
Okay. So I want to thank all of you for being here as well. When I look out at the audience, I remember a journey that started for me in Redwood Shores back in '99, and I want to especially call out members of the Redwood Shores Community Association, because it was through volunteering with RSCA that kind of led me to the Planning Commission and the Council. So I'm feeling rather nostalgic being out here and seeing many faces of people that I know and I've worked with. Four things that I wanted to mention that I think may be of interest to you. One, I have the privilege to serve on something called the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority Board. And it was put into place by legislation in 2008. And the Restoration Authority Board has 7 members. I am the one that represents what's called the South Bay. There are members from the 9 counties within the Bay Area, jurisdictionally. There are 7 of us, but we break up the 9 counties. And we are entertaining the idea of putting a $9 parcel tax on the November 2014 ballot. So there's a website that is out there, San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority. We had enabling legislation for the 9 counties that would allow us to do this. We are looking at it very closely because in order for us to put it on the ballot in all 9 counties, we'd need to raise about $1.9 million. Those are just for the election costs. So that's a huge nut for an authority that does not have any money. If we were to put it on the ballot and raise that $9 per parcel, it's not based on $100,000 of assessed value, it's a flat $9 for a 10-year period. It would raise somewhere in the vicinity of about $15 million per year to do restoration projects of existing publicly held lands. So to do, there's about 33,000 acres of publicly owned lands within the bay, around the bay. And so this is something that I just want to put on your radar screen. There'll be more information coming out. We'll be meeting later in May to talk about it and then deciding which way we're going to go on it. The other board that I sit on is the San Mateo County Transportation Authority. We're the ones that manage the half-cent sales tax for San Mateo County. So 22% of that goes to Caltrain. Another 20% is roads and highways. So it's all of your roads and streets. It's ferry or potential ferry service. It's infrastructure. It's the Woodside Road interchange that they're studying right now from a design and plan perspective. If we can fix that, I mean, that's going to take a lot more money than the TA has available, but it's just another body that handles that kind of money. 2 other things. Mayor G and I participate in something it was called a 2x2, but I think it's a 2x2 by 2x2. And why I say that is because it's 2 members of the Redwood City Council, myself and the mayor, 2 members of the Belmont Redwood Shores School District, 2 members of the Belmont City Council. So I guess it is just 2x2x2.
And we're thinking about the high school district too.
That's the other 2. So to add them in, but really to have meetings to find out what each other are doing and how we can leverage the infrastructure of each other's bodies and be aware of what is the school district doing here in Redwood Shores that can impact the community and impact what we do as a city. What is the city of Belmont doing within their community and the school district? Because it is unusual that a community has we have 3 school districts, 2 elementary school districts and a high school district that represent all of Redwood City, if you look at it in its entirety. So it's good to have a dialogue, and it's good to have an ability to leverage. The other piece, Dr. Bell already talked about the Thursday program, but the Stanford project in Redwood City is something that is very important to this entire council. And there are 2 other things that you may want to think about participating in. One is an entrepreneurship boot camp. This is a part of the DDA, the Development and Disposition Agreement, that we negotiated with Stanford for them to come in and develop the 48 acres of the old Ampex project on Broadway in Redwood City. So the entrepreneurship boot camp kicks off in August with 2 days, in October with 2 days, and next January 2 days. You can apply to it. It'll be a cohort of about 40 individuals. The city will vet the applications. These are Stanford Graduate School of Business professors that teach it. It is $1,250. $1,250 for a Stanford Business School taught entrepreneurship boot camp. There's also Stanford executive education programs, and if you look at the booklet for the executive education programs, do not have a heart attack when you look at the prices of these programs, because Redwood City has a fund that if you meet the criteria for Stanford's executive education programs, whatever one you pick, if you meet their criteria, Redwood City has a fund to offer scholarships to offset the costs of these programs. These are very, very unique. No other community has this on the table right now. It's part of what we negotiated with Stanford, really to make it open for our community. So these are benefits that we wanted to share with you, and we're really excited about it. And please, please, please come to the Fox Theater on Thursday night. It is going to be a fantastic TED-style talk program with 3 different speakers, Tesla, Khan Academy, and Tara Vanderveer, who I would echo, she is phenomenal. If you hear her speak, we only need to really have her, but we have the other 2, just to kind of round it off. So that's just a personal thought.
It's being recorded. And the courthouse square will not be a basketball court after the speech. Before I wrap up, just want to share one thought. As you hear, a lot of us do a lot of different things as we are part of council. And I know one thing from the Redwood Shores Committee that was rather disruptive was what Samtrans did earlier this year with their Samtrans service plan and how they changed Route 260 and Route 67, taking kids up to Ralston and Carmont. I do know that a lot of people worked very closely with the Samtrans staff. They tweaked the schedules, and I think we got it close to almost right, if not right. So I appreciate everyone's patience and working with staff to make sure that the issues of the kids getting up too early, the kids between the middle school and the high school, too much on the bus, all that stuff got worked out. And I want to thank everybody for that. And there are comments that we've heard throughout this evening about public transit. The remarkable thing is that ridership in San Mateo County on public transit last year amounted to a little over 35 million rides. Shuttles, buses, trains, BART, everything. And year to date, through April, we're 1.2 million ahead of last year. And so there's a lot of work going on to find different ways for people to move around the county, get to work, get to where they need to be. And you'll hear more about the modernization of Caltrain, as well as we're looking very hard to see if we can add 6-car trains to the tracks so that we can carry more riders. Because average daily ridership is well over 54,000 right now. And during peak times, we're almost like where some of the Asian countries are, just push everyone and pack them into the train. Adding another car will help increase capacity to what we have right now. Lastly, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all for showing up on a Monday night. Thank you to our partners, RSCA, the Community Association. I woke up Saturday morning and said, we need to do a little more outreach. And so RSCA jumped on it. They did their email blast. They got us on the signboards. RSOA got their network going. Our boards, commission, and committee members, I reached out to them. They passed the word, as well as our staff. And you being here this evening showed that we can do something at the last minute, and we'll learn from it doing it a little bit more ahead of time to give everybody a little bit more heads up. I want to thank our staff, particularly our city clerk's team. Bringing everybody here and all the equipment and all the paper and all the setup is not easy. So our kudos to our city clerk and her team, to our staff that are here tonight. And lastly, but most importantly, thank you to my council colleagues for joining me out here in Redwood Shores. We'll learn from this experiment and make it better. And we'll go out to North Fair Oaks in October, and we'll have 2 more next year out in the neighborhoods. Because it's all about listening and learning and engaging our community so that we can make the best decisions possible. So thank you all for everything tonight. With that, I hope you will join us one way or another next Monday, May 12th, for our regular council meeting. If you can't make it to City Hall, you can watch us on local cable or on the internet, because we stream our council meetings. So thank you very much and have a great Monday evening.